Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica. We got the big episode for you guys today, the surprise one that I wasn't planning on making. But just recently, 2 days ago, I did a video on the update to the Sega Saturn core, and I said this thing felt so incredibly close to done because every single game was booting, and I anticipated you might see an update all soon. Well, as of about 30 minutes ago, that's exactly what happened. SRG 320 updated the repo, and you're going to have a brand new Sega Saturn core in update all today. It's going to have so many fundamental changes, everything that basically has existed for the year of 2025. And trust me, you want to run, not walk, over to update all and hit it up. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But before you click off the video and run over to your MiSTer and hit update all, trying to get the newest core, I want to go over some things you're going to find and some things you're not going to find, at least as of the recording of this video, because I want to be very clear about one thing. Just because it's hit update all again doesn't mean that there aren't more bug fixes that could potentially come to the core. It just means that SRG feels like all of these iterative improvements that he has added to the core are now ready for prime time. And that's just because there is a metric crap ton of testing on every single core that goes on in the background on the MiSTer FPGA Discord server. All the things you see in videos that I've done are usually people indicating to me that X game has seen improvements, whether it's from the patch notes that SRG 320 puts out, or whether it's stuff that people discovered in Discord and they send messages basically saying, hey, you should check this game out. Now, as of the recording of this audio as well, the STV or Sega Titan video core has also been updated and added to update all, but it's currently not coming down. It is getting fixed in the background, so hopefully we see that soon. But going back to some of the earliest test footage where games would barely even run, this has been some of the most fun I've had on the channel, just basically iteratively testing every single Sega Saturn core to see the improvements, because it's one of those things. Sega Saturn along with Nintendo 64 was always presumed to either be possible or completely impossible. We know exactly how that shook out when you watch videos like this, and it's one of those things. The Triassic DE10 Nano and its clones with that Cyclone 5 chip are absolutely filled to the brim when it comes to these cores. There's only a certain finite amount of logic and bandwidth to be able to do this, and Sega Saturn along with Nintendo 64 just basically came down under the wire, and that's been incredible. Because if we even go back to some of the earliest tests, and I keep all of my footage just for fun, this was Burning Rangers probably like 18 months ago, and even though the textures are completely missing and the game would freeze all the time and it wouldn't run at the proper frame rate, just seeing this actually run on MiSTer FPGA was absolutely a revelation, and just how exciting the times are going to be ahead. And I looked into my preview videos on my YouTube timeline, and I think I did over 150 different videos on the Sega Saturn core up until this point in time that you're watching this today, and it's been an absolute ton of fun. My favorite thing is so many people have discovered the Sega Saturn and its library from MiSTer FPGA. I see comment after comment saying this is the first time I'm playing Saturn. I absolutely love it, and that makes me very happy as a Sega fan. And now today, if you go in and play Burning Rangers, it does exactly the same thing it would do on real hardware. You can sit down, you can play the game from start to finish, you can just treat it like it's a real Sega Saturn console, because in essence that's exactly what it is doing. Now again, we have the single RAM build and the dual RAM build as well, and people always ask me, is it worth upgrading to dual RAM for? Honestly, if you use analog video and you want to keep using that, just stick to the single RAM core. There's going to be a few tiny slowdowns in a few of the 3D fighting games. We even have a turbo mode to try to fix that up. If you don't use analog video whatsoever and you're purely digital, maybe go ahead and upgrade. I think now might be a decent time. And again, we got Sega Titan video along for the ride out of this as well. And if you're not familiar with that, it's basically a Sega Saturn as an arcade board that uses cartridges, not actual CD-ROMs, and I had an STV Multi in my closet, and I have since sold it to another collector because the MiSTer FPGA core does everything I need, and it is a hell of a lot easier to hook up than actual STV arcade hardware. No super gun, no PVM needed. You just kind of turn your MiSTer on and you're playing Sega Titan video, and that's been an awesome bonus as well. It wasn't just Sega Saturn that was possible on MiSTer FPGA. From the hard work of SRG 320 was also Sega Titan video, basically giving you double for your money, and that is always something to be advocated for. I just love all of these improvements. It makes me so happy to have all of this level of preservation on something like MiSTer. From the gameplay to the visuals, everything is perfect, leading us into our first soundtrack sample of how good the music is on an STV cartridge. Listen, I'll be right back with a lot more news. It's just fun to have Sega Titan video because some games actually have enhancements over the actual Sega Saturn versions of the game. You might get better improvement, or you may even get more frames of animation versus Saturn. Even though the Sega Titan video is based directly off it, we do have that option. Or something like a Panzer Dragoon here. This is another game in another series on Sega Saturn that you can just sit down and play. I've completed the first two Panzer Dragoons on MiSTer FPGA and had an amazing time. While I haven't had the time to complete Saga yet, I've heard from more than one person that they just sat down, played the game, saved, and did everything they needed to do to complete it and had a great experience, and that's just something absolutely to be celebrated. It is wild to think that the Sega Saturn hardware was always considered to be such an architecturally complex system. Emulation is still just kind of trying to catch up to run all the games, and with the most recent emulator, Amir, on the market trying to do an even better job than the current Sega Saturn emulation we have, the fact that FPGA code and SRG320 got here within 2 years is just absolutely a testament to what you can do if you just really feel like doing it. And you know full well this is the point in time in which I'm going to mention that SRG320 is working on a 3DO core as well, and I'm kind of guessing we might see a test core soon now that the actual Sega Saturn core is back in update all. And I can't wait to start a 3DO testing series the same way I've done with Sega Saturn, that I did with Nintendo 64 and I did with PlayStation 1. And if I'm being entirely honest, it's probably the most excited I've been about MiSTer FPGA in the 5 years of covering it, because I just absolutely love the 3DO. I'm not saying it is the perfect console, it's just the perfect console for me. And even if we take a look back in 2022, that's how long I've been running these previews for. You can see even at this stage when Panzer Dragoon would run, but it would just basically have almost no textures whatsoever. We just had a fun time with it. And that's the great thing about the Sega Saturn. Not only does it have a ton of fun 3D games, it has some absolutely lush, incredible looking 2D games as well, like Super Tempo. That's the fun part about MiSTer FPGA. All of the consoles it's covering here in this generation basically give you the best of what was available for 3D back in the day, and also some of the most lush looking 32-bit 2D games you could possibly imagine, and they're all going to look incredible coming out of the MiSTer FPGA core. And if you are not using this on an actual CRT, it's going to be the best looking image you could possibly get out of Sega Saturn, because I always say Saturn has the best RGB output of any console I've ever played, but I understand that everyone has something like an actual PVM or CRT television in their collection, so a lot of you end up using scale or something like a FrameMeister, OSSC, RetroTink, or even the more 4K. But with MiSTer FPGA outputting a super amazing looking 1080p image, it kind of just basically gives you the best looking version of Saturn, whether you're playing in 2D or 3D. And along the ride here, we've done so many different Saturn mods as well tested in the core, like the most recent translation of some of the Dungeons & Dragons games on Sega Saturn. They work on the core, and that's amazing as well. There's been a ton of different ROM hacks and patches, translations to Princess Crown and every other game out there that we talked about, and every single one of them has worked within the core. So it's not just going to be the retail library you get to play, it's also going to be all of these different fan games and all of these different patches and ROM hacks and translations, basically expanding the Sega Saturn audience that much more. And that really is, again, my main takeaway of doing this entire testing series, just how much love there is out there for the Sega Saturn, both from fans that owned one back in the day like me, and people that are discovering the console via MiSTer FPGA, because there's so many cores and so many consoles that people just didn't have a chance to play, and it's happening today. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, Sega Saturn, did you own one back in the day, or are you playing on MiSTer? But one more soundtrack sample just to get an idea of how good the audio quality is, but come back because I still got a few more fun things to show you before you run over to update all. Just sounds incredible, and that's the experience you're going to get across the entirety of this core now that it's in update all. But again, I'm sure SRG320 still has a couple things to button up. There's a couple issues with some of the dual stick analog controls in those twin sticks, and that's definitely going to be something that I'm sure is addressed. But it's one of those things, this is basically just down to the most minor of fixes at this point in time, and SRG320 doesn't update the core and update all until he feels super confident that everyone's going to have a good time. And take it from me, having tested basically every single version of the Sega Saturn core from the first one to the most recent one, you're going to have an amazing time. And again, if you need that STV core, might not be an update all yet, but it should be there soon. But we're done, go update, and I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the Saturn. Bye bye.